Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, September 8th, 2025 regular meeting of the Rochester Hills City Council. As always, if there's any members of the public wishing to make public comment for items, whether they're on the agenda or not on the agenda, please pick up one of the blue public comment cards on the table in the back, complete the form and hand it to Ms. Wisburn so that we can make sure that we call on you at the appropriate time on the agenda. As always, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. Before we get started today and we officially call the meeting to order, it has come to my attention that I believe it is Clerk Scott's birthday today. So if everyone will join me in a quick happy birthday. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
Happy birthday. I am turning red. Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Leanne. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
She indicated she wanted to keep her birthday on the down low this week, so that was probably didn't work out. Ms. Wisburn, if you could please take the roll.
Good evening. President Deal.
Here.
Vice President Carlock.
Here.
Mr. Blair.
Here.
Ms. Moreland.
Here.
Ms. Mangioli.
Here.
Ms. Neubauer.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Here.
President Deal, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Now, if everyone will please rise and join our Youth Council representative as she leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of agenda. I've not been made aware of any modifications or corrections to the agenda. We have a motion by Vice President Carlock, seconded by Ms. Moreland to approve. All those in favor of approval of agenda say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously, and we move on to council and youth committee reports. And as always, we'll first turn it over to our youth council representative, Christine Wang.
Good evening, President Deal, Vice President Carlock, Mayor Barnett, council members, and citizens of Rochester Hills. My name is Christina Wang, and I am a 10th grader at Rochester Adams High School, and I have served on the Rochester Hills Government Youth Council for the past 2 years, and I serve on the Human Resource Management Committee. This past month, the Youth Council has been welcoming our new members with orientation and the swearing-in ceremony. We also assigned our technical review committees for the year at our first meeting, which was held at Borden Park. This month, we are participating in the State of the City event and the Rochester Hills Bike Show. We have been prepping behind the scenes as well for the State of the City to ensure a fabulous event. We will be participating in the second annual Rochester Hills Custom and Vintage Bike and Family Day Show, where we will help with the raffle table. We are also very excited to assist at the State of the City address on Thursday, September 18th. The Youth Council will support this event by welcoming guests and helping make the event a fun experience for all in attendance. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 1st. Thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you so much for that report this evening. First up on our council committee reports, we'll turn it over to Mr. Walker.
Thank you, President Deal. Ms. Wisburn, if you could share my screen, please. So mark your calendars for one of the tastiest nights of the year. I think it's this Thursday. In fact, it is this Thursday, September 11th, from 4 until 8 p.m. OPC will transform into a lively community hub for our food truck rally, featuring 8 of the area's most popular food trucks, serving up a mouth-watering eats you won't want to miss. Enjoy live music from those killer flamingos, sip on refreshing beverages including beer and wine, and soak up the family-friendly fun in our kids zone, lawn games, and raffle prizes. Best of all, it's free. Open to everyone and complimentary shuttle service. A huge thank you to our presenting sponsor, Lake Michigan Credit Union, and all of the generous sponsors for making this community celebration possible. Bring your friends, bring your family. Just don't miss the night of food, music, and fun. Hope to see you there. Thank you, President Deal.
Very good. Thank you. Sounds like a lot of fun. Councilman Neubauer.
Thank you, President Deal. Can you share my screen as well, please? As our Youth Council representative mentioned, this Sunday, September 14th, is the Rochester Hills Second Annual Custom Bike Show and Family Day. And this year, we're going to be benefiting Dutton Farms. And it's at the lovely Spencer Park. There's going to be, it's free for everybody to attend. The proceeds, like I said, go to Dutton Farms. There's going to be bounce houses and food trucks and lots of fun things for everybody to enjoy. And again, it benefits a wonderful organization that is integral to our community. So we hope to see you guys there. It's from 1 to 4, September 14th. It's free to attend. Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Blair.
Thank you, President Deal. On behalf of the Public Safety and Infrastructure Committee, if you would share my screen, Christine, I just wanted to keep up the topic that I brought up a few weeks ago, which is to be aware of scams. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. What I think I'm going to do is every meeting, I'm going to give a tip or two to be on the lookout. And this week's tip is to watch out for unusual payment methods. This is a sure sign of a scam. If you're asked to provide a gift card, a Western Union, any of these unusual payment methods, that should be a red flag that you're dealing with a scammer. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm not going to let that happen to me. I'm too smart. I'm not going to fall for that. Well, please share this information with somebody that does. I bet we all know somebody who's maybe getting up there in years or maybe is in a hurry and might miss something like this. So that's today's takeaway. Be on the lookout for unusual payment methods, and whenever in doubt, call your financial institution, call the bank. Make sure you're talking to somebody legitimate before sending any money. Back to you, President Deal.
Thank you very much for that update. Next up, we move on to, I don't see any other council committee reports, and so then we'll move on to public hearings, and we'll kick things off with 2025-0326, public hearing for the City of Rochester Hills fiscal year 2026 proposed and 2027 to 2028 projected budget plan and the proposed 2025 millage rates. Mr. Snyder.
All right, well, thank you, President Deal, Vice President Carlock, City Council members, Mayor Barnett, and Ms. Wang. Well, on August 11th of this past year, the City of Rochester Hills presented their fiscal year 2026 to 2028 proposed budget to City Council at the first City Council meeting held in August, and that is per our city charter. Then a week later, on August 18th, the Rochester Hills City Council held a budget workshop, which was open to the public, where each department presented their upcoming year's budget plans. And city staff were available for any questions or comments on their respective budgets. There was one item brought forward at the budget workshop as a straw poll question for City Council members to consider regarding the updated or the proposed 2026 budget plan. And the question was, should the city change the current part-time museum maintenance specialist position to a full-time museum maintenance specialist position beginning in fiscal year 2026 budget? The cost impact of changing the museum maintenance specialist as is currently proposed in the fiscal year 2026 budget from a part-time status to a full-time status is an additional $64,270 per year. This straw poll question did receive supporting votes from the majority of City Council members, so the 2026 and beyond proposed budget plan has been updated and amended to reflect this change. Basically, the fiscal division increased the general fund's museum division salaries and benefits by the additional $64,270 for the fiscal year 2026 budget and beyond, and made an offsetting reduction in the general fund transfer out to the capital improvement fund of an identical $64,270 to offset that staff increase. This was the only change or straw poll question posed as part of the budget workshop, and that will bring everybody up to date to where the proposed budget stands today. So, and that brings us to tonight, September 8th, where we are here to provide for the public hearing portion of the annual budget process, and this will provide an additional opportunity for public comments. In total, we'll hold two separate budget public hearings tonight. One is for, and the first one will be for the city's fiscal year 2026 and 28 proposed budget plan. And after that is completed, then we'll have a second public hearing for the City of Rochester Hills winter 2025 millage rates. This first public hearing scheduled for tonight is on the proposed budget plan. And besides the updated direction from City Council on the one straw poll question, I have received no further questions nor comments from the city on the city's proposed budget plan since the workshop from City Council nor the general public. So with that, I will request that City Council open a public hearing on the City of Rochester Hills proposed fiscal year 2026 to 28 budget plan. And I, as well as representatives from each city department, are here and available if there are any questions or comments on the proposed budget plan. Thank you.
Very good. So we will, at this time, open a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2026 and proposed 2027 to 2028 budget plan. I don't think we have any blue public comment cards. I don't see anybody looking to approach the podium, so I will go ahead and close the public hearing on the budget. And I believe with that, there's no further action to be taken on that item.
There is no further action at this time. The next step in this budget process will be in 2 weeks, and that will be September 22nd, where city administration will humbly request City Council approval of the fiscal year 2026 budget plan.
Very
But
good.
we are done for tonight.
Very good, thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to item 2025-0327, which, as you indicated, is the adoption of the winter 2025 millage rates.
Yes. All right, so the second public hearing scheduled for tonight is regarding the city's proposed winter 2025 millage rates. And this will provide the funding for the City of Rochester Hills, for OPC, for RARA, and the Rochester Hills Public Library's fiscal year 2026 budgets. These are the millage levies that will be included on the winter 2025 tax bill and will provide funding for fiscal year 2026. The bottom line millage rate, as proposed, sets the city's overall millage rate at 11.2753 mil. This is a bottom line millage increase of 0.4280 mil from last year's millage rate, and that's a plus 3.9% bottom line increase. And this proposed increase is due to the recent 36% increase in the Oakland County Sheriff's Office contractual rate approved by the Oakland County Board of Commissioners last December. And this millage rate increase is calculated as the police millage rate needed to maintain the city's Oakland County Sheriff's Office deputy coverage with the same level of contractual officers to maintain public safety in our community. This millage rate at 11.2753 continues to keep the City of Rochester Hills as among the lowest millage rates in all cities within Oakland County. And in fact, that 11.2753 millage rate will set the City of Rochester Hills as the second lowest millage rate among all cities in Oakland County with a population of 5,000 or more residents. So we will move back into the number 2 position, ahead of the City of Troy, which is now at 11.5 mil, as Novi recently increased their millage rate by 1 mil. And we will trail only the City of Troy, which, by the way, has a 1.1327 mil increase ballot proposal to its voters this November. If approved by the City of Troy voters in November, the City of Troy's millage rate will be a flat 11 mil. So Troy will be 11, Rochester Hills will be 11.2, Novi will be 11.5. Number 4 is the City of Rochester, and that's at 12.8. So we can see we're really in the rare air as far as all communities in Oakland County. Also included in this resolution are the special lighting levies for the Christian Hills and Denison Acre subdivisions. And with that, I will request that City Council open a public hearing on the City of Rochester Hills proposed winter 2025 millage rates. And if City Council is comfortable with the proposed millage rates after the public hearing closes, it is requested for the City of Rochester Hills City Council to approve the winter 2025 millage rates. And this will enable the city to provide its millage rates to the Oakland County Department of Equalization by October 1st. And with that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Very good. And with that, we will go ahead and open the public hearing on the adoption of the winter 2025 millage rates. I don't believe we have any blue public comment cards. I also don't see anybody approaching the podium. So at this time, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for adoption of a resolution with respect to the millage rates. We have a motion by Mrs. Neubauer, seconded by Mrs. Moreland. And do we, I don't see any further discussion or any discussion on this item. And I'll read the resolution. Resolved that the assessor of the City of Rochester Hill, or should read it like this. There we Now therefore, be it resolved, the City Council hereby adopts the tax rates in accordance with Chapter 4, Taxation, specifically Section 4.1, Power to Tax and Secure Revenue, and Section 4.2, Charter Tax Rate and Special Voted Millage Limitations to be levied in December 2025 to provide the tax revenues included in the proposed fiscal year 2026 as it appears in your packet. The total millage rate of 11.2753 is per $1,000 of taxable valuation as equalized. And be it further resolved that the City Council hereby adopts the following special lighting levies for the Christian Hills subdivision at the rate of $16.28 per lot or description, and for the Dennison Acres subdivision at the rate of $5.85 per lot or description. And be it further resolved that the assessor of the City of Rochester Hills be and hereby is authorized to have said amount spread on the winter 2025 tax rolls. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Council.
And thank you. And that moves us to 2025-0377, public hearing for the 2025 restated LDFA Development and Tax Increment Financing Plan.
Good evening, City Council.
Oh, your mic. Oh, no, it's on.
No, it's on. Hello, good evening. You good? Okay, just yell, okay. Good evening, City Council.
Right, we need to get it on the.
So this one
Switch
works,
mics.
right?
Yeah, switch mics. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Thank you. All right, we're ready. Good evening, City Council, Mayor Barnett. I'm excited to open up this public hearing for the extension of the Rochester Hills Local Development Finance Authority. I wanted to start this evening with a couple key introductions of some members of our team that have really made it very, very easy and helpful for us to be able to get to this point. Joining me are a couple of our LDFA board members this evening. Behind me, I have Pete Arbor, I have Gloria Pagliarella, and then he thought he was sneaking into the back, but over here we have Greg Doyle. All three of these board members represent Oakland County and the businesses and the residents on this board. And as you know, last month, the LDFA board unanimously approved these restated development and TIF plans, and I'm very appreciative that they were able to join us tonight to show support as we move forward. Also, the city has hired Dickinson Wright to be our legal counsel to assist us with this process. And joining us is Eric McLaughlin, who is our legal counsel on this. He is an expert when it comes to municipal and TIF districts and the law and the whole process, and he has been a valuable member of the team of helping us get to this point and is certainly able to answer any questions if you had anything on that. But I thought that I would give you a quick brief history on the Rochester Hills LDFA. In Michigan, TIF authorities operate under Public Act 57, and specifically for LDFAs, they are created with the purpose of business development and job creation. The Rochester Hills LDFA was created in 1994, and the latest LDFA plan was actually adopted in 2009. That plan currently is set to sunset December 31st of this year. And over the last 30 years, the LDFA has accomplished lots of projects, but there is more to be done. I think road improvements have definitely led a lot of the LDFA investment. Many of these projects are very visible in our community when you look at the Adams realignment, Hamlin Road reconstruction, and then the extension of Austin to Devondale that ultimately led to us landing Ray Connect. These are very, very visible projects. Just this last year, we completed a very big project for the LDFA, which was in the original plan 30 years ago, which was the paving of Leach. And we're very excited at the opportunities that this will bring to us to try and redevelop that corridor and attract more high-tech businesses and that highly skilled workforce to the community. While many of these projects have been very focused on moving cars, the LDFA has invested in moving people too, whether it's installing pathways or pedestrian crossings or even trail connections. We see this as a valuable tool that really meets the needs of the workforce. And particularly in the last 5 years, the LDFA has been very valuable for us in helping the city to implement its economic development strategy. As I said earlier, much of that mission is business development and job creation. So we know that the two biggest things driving businesses of where they want to locate is making sure that these businesses have the right infrastructure and they have access to a talented workforce. So the LDFA has been very helpful in helping us with any of our business attraction or retention programs, or even some of those talent programs that we've very much been focused on the last few years. While much of this has been big wins for us from a capital infrastructure standpoint, I, of course, look at this from the economic development standpoint and what have been some of the business wins. That Hamlin Road improvement and the site developments that we did to that property ultimately helped Unoptic select Rochester Hills for its new 100,000 square foot facility where 120 jobs were. And then also when the city secured jurisdiction over Old Adams and where we have some proposed road improvements and a delegation trip to Coastal ultimately, or to Germany, ultimately, Coastal Contact decided to purchase vacant land over there off of Old Adams, and they're in the process of planning to build future headquarters over there and bring added jobs to that area as well. So as you can see, over the 30 years, the LDFA has been very, very busy, almost a project a year. And when you look at, again, what it has brought to the community, the LDFA has invested over $17 million in some very big infrastructure projects for our community. So this brings us to today. Before you, we have a restated development plan and a tax increment finance plan. Specifically within the LDFA, or within the development plan, when you look at we always have to identify what that district boundary is for the LDFA. We are proposing no changes to the boundaries of the district. We're not changing the boundaries or anything like that. That will stay the same, and we are not acquiring any properties or taking over any properties. We've also had to update, as part of that development plan, the projects that the LDFA will be funding. And as you kind of see that list of what we've done in the past, we want to keep the good things going. So we'll be continuing to invest in a lot of, whether it's road construction or infrastructure or pathways or just any of those initiatives that we might have from a business attraction and retention standpoint or a workforce attraction and retention standpoint. If you look specifically at the tax increment finance plan, just wanted to highlight a couple key things to note. By us extending the existing LDFA, this allows us to continue using the existing base year that we have for the LDFA. Another interesting thing to note, this is not always the case when you look at other TIFs across the state, but for us, the Rochester Hills LDFA does not own any property, nor does it maintain any debt. Oftentimes people will ask, you might look at the boundaries of the district and you might see a property that's physically in the district, but based on the rules of the LDFA, we can only collect taxes from eligible properties. Those eligible properties are those businesses or properties that are involved in industrial or high-tech operations. So there are no residential or retail properties that are included in the tax capture of the LDFA. And for those eligible properties, we're looking at any real or personal properties taxes that are associated with that property. Basically, the new plan is to extend this another 20 years. So the new expiration date would be December 31st of 2045. And we anticipate, and again, we know we're kind of looking out, we're looking across. Joe has an amazing crystal ball, he tells me, but we hope that it will yield about $14 to $16 million in revenue over the course of those 20 years. So what are the next steps? As I stated earlier, the LDFA board approved the plans back in August. Today, we are opening up that public hearing. All taxing jurisdictions have been notified. Based on the law, we cannot vote on it. We have to leave the public hearing open for at least 60 days for those taxing jurisdictions. But it is our ultimate goal to come back to you in November for requesting your approval of those plans. We are currently, like I stated, working with some of our taxing jurisdictions. We actually have a meeting scheduled with Oakland County's TIF ad hoc committee. Oakland County has a TIF policy. So staff has been working with their staff to be able to understand that policy and to work with them to be able to garner their support to continue on with their participation in the LDFA. We will, upon approval, we will approve all of these plans to the state before December 31st. And, looking into 2026, once we can get past the extension of the LDFA, obviously we'll dive deeper into some of those programs or those projects that we'll be looking to do to see what does LDFA 2.0 really look like for the city and for the business community.
And just to wrap it up in conclusion, it's very obvious to everyone in this room that Pam, is a great captain of the ship and has led this board with passion and great direction. And to have the board members, come here tonight to support it really is evidence of that labor of love. And so we've been working behind the scenes. I think besides council, this is probably one of Joe's favorite boards and commissions because they've done such great things for this community. And so just know that we've been working, like I said, behind the scenes for quite some time now. And we already have OCC and the library's commitment to continue their share of their tax capture. And so really at this point, we'll be working with Oakland County over the next couple months. And so from our standpoint tonight, we were just hoping to get a resolution from you guys approving the direction of this plan so that we can continue this board, keep on doing the great things they've been doing. As you may know, and from our budget, they fund half of Pam's salary as well as Michelle's salary is also going to be coming from the LDFA as well. And so this is a board that we are committed to, not just financially, but from all of the projects that we're planning to do moving forward. I'm really excited, and this is just one of those required steps before we get to kind of really dig deeper for the next 20 years. Joe, if you have anything you want to add about the LDFA?
Oh, just really quick, you've done an amazing job as usual. But I would just mention, Ms. Valentic and, obviously Ms. Roediger, that they love the LDFA for the valuable tool it is for, job creation and job retaining, keeping those companies here. I also view this as a very valuable tool financially, primarily due to the participating tax jurisdictions that also contribute into the LDFA. So all those projects that we're doing, the Leach Roads, the Hamlin, and everything else, not only has that been some city dollars, that's also been participating jurisdictions that have also helped to fund those. And we've done some amazing work over the past 20 years, but as we all know, infrastructure doesn't seem to get better over time. So those projects that we completed over the past 20 years are probably going to be needing a refresh over the next 20 years. So that will definitely be a sustained focus of the LDFA, keeping it a viable district for our high-tech businesses. Thank you.
So we're happy to answer any questions you may have, but look forward to moving this forward and getting your support and the support of the county here in the next couple months.
Thank you very much. So from a procedural standpoint, what we're doing tonight is the resolution would be to indicate, council support for moving this restated plan forward. And then kind of placing it on, it also places this on our agenda for the November 10th meeting, which would be for final adoption, which I assume that the reason we're kind of doing it in that order is to allow Oakland County and I can't remember if there was one other stakeholder to approve the LDFA plan as well.
That's our goal. We don't have to have it done in that order. We could always, the local community can always adopt our plan, and it's a matter of how much participation the county will be.
Okay.
Is after the fact. Ideally, we want that before we come back here in November 10th,
Right.
and that's our goal. But if we don't have that resolved by then, that doesn't stop us from moving forward with our own city plans.
And that November 10th date is because there has to be 60 days. that it
Correct. We have
has
to have
be
60
published
days,
in.
and it sunsets on December 31st. So we
Very-
gave ourselves, 40-day wiggle room.
Very good. Thank you so much. And with that, what I'll do is I'll open the public hearing on the consideration of the LDFA Development and Tax Increment Funding Plan. I don't see any blue public comment cards, nor do I see anyone approaching the podium. So I will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the council dais. We do have one council member wishing to, with questions or comments. Mrs. Mangioli.
Thank you, President Deal. I want to thank you very much for all the information. Just trivia, note, my first city committee was the LDFA many years ago. So it was very interesting to go back through all of the work that's happened since then. I printed off several pages of the report. For those in the audience who may not be aware, 55 pages of information was provided as part of our city council packet on what the LDFA has accomplished and what they plan to do. I also want to thank Ms. Roediger and Ms. Valentic for the questions that I sent to them in advance. So I would like to add them to the record for today's meeting.
Certainly.
For the audience members that may be curious as to what I was asking about, it was the boundaries and whether those were going to change, and we've heard, no, that's not going to happen. That the revenue would not change. Asked about the revenue, and the revenue is not going to change other than whatever would happen holistically as the rest of the city would change. That we were looking at the long-term strategy for the LDFA and what was going to happen there. So thank you very much for that information. I did have one question about strategic objective 5B, about a city-owned facility in there. And it sounds like it's a wish list, but not necessarily something that is in the immediate plans for that. And again, your description about the businesses that fall within the boundaries, I didn't think of a car wash as retail, but I guess we exchange money for services, so it's retail, and so they don't get to contribute. So just as a matter of what other development we do in that area, would a new business that comes in there that falls into your high-tech and industrial, they would become automatically part of the LDFA, or do we have to ask them? How do we, if we get somebody new?
Obviously, one, they have to physically be located within the boundaries of the district. But every year, the assessing team, I don't know if I think Lauren is here.
If she's back there.
I will give my general answer, and Lori can elaborate if need be. But every year, the assessing department pulls the list of those businesses within the district and identifies what is the nature of their operations. So we look at that list of businesses every year within the district to make sure that we are following the rules of the law and collecting from the correct business operations.
So then when Coastal builds on that vacant land, so
Oh,
that's going
yes.
to add to the value of our LDFA?
Yes, it will.
Oh, that's good to know. So again, I want to thank you very much. So, sorry, Mrs. Roediger, you.
I was going to say, and the vacant land next to Yanoptic.
Right. Yes.
So we have some opportunities for growth.
That is great
Not a
to
ton, but
hear.
some.
Yes, we just want to make sure we continue to market that to businesses who find the value here within Rochester Hills. Thank you very much to the LDFA members that are here and for the work that you do. I remember those meetings like it's 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was just, okay, I'll tell my boss I'll be a little late, he'll understand. But, so thank you very much for your service, and with that, President Deal, I move the resolution in our packet.
Motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Mrs. Newbauer. Mayor Barnett.
Yeah, thank you, President Deal. Good evening, Council. Yeah, just an opportunity to maybe underscore some of what Council Member Mangioli said. You know, we have a lot of our team here today, and even through Mr. Snyder's presentation earlier, I think it's reflective of the sort of innovative nature of our group. This is one of the tools that you can use, and I think we've used really effectively to meet infrastructure needs, to grow connections with businesses, and I think this is, obviously, I know Council understands it, but it's a confusing acronym if you don't know if you're watching at home, but it really is a way to get the most local control over a segment of tax dollars that can be driven to really support our very innate community, and that's what I love. And I want to say, because she's here in front of you, not all the time, but Ms. Valentic does a absolutely fantastic job. I mean, every agency, I can't tell you how many agencies I know are after her, and we're very fortunate that she continues to give us her best and lead on this. So, Ms. Valentic, thank you for your leadership on this, and certainly to the board members. It's normal that I'm not here when you meet, because you guys meet too dang early, but you all do a great job, and it is recognized to come tonight to show your support of this. And I think the council, and I know the administration, appreciates the work that you do, because many times Joe brings forward a project and says, and the LDFA is covering half of this, and the LDFA is supportive of this. This is a project in conjunction with the LDFA. So thank you for being a partner with us on so many projects that we have really been successful on in the past. So this is, you can tell it's the blocking and tackling is being done behind the scenes, but this is really a great tool for the city to extend its finances in a way that otherwise would be very difficult to do. And Pam, thanks for your leadership.
Thank you very much, Mayor Barnett. We do have a motion by Mrs. Mangioli, which was seconded by Mrs. Newbauer. I will go ahead and read the resolution in the record. Now, therefore, be it resolved that 1, fixing of this date as the date of the city's public hearing on the 2025 restated plan and provision of notice thereof pursuant to the act are ratified and confirmed. 2, that the city hereby expresses its support for the 2025 restated plan and for such of the actions and efforts of the LDFA and the city's officers, employees, and representatives, as many may be necessary or advisable in furtherance of this resolution or the extension and approval of the 2025 restated plan. And 3, the city shall further consider the 2025 restated plan for approval in accordance with the act at the council's meeting on November 10th, 2025, or on such other date or dates as may be necessary or advisable in furtherance of this resolution or the extension and approval of the 2025 restated plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Blair being absent at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam.
Next up, Planning and Economic Development, 2025-0378, administrative update on the Michigan Department of Environment and Great Lakes and Energy Eagle Grant number 2023-2540. Jamie Timmons Burton, ASTE presenter.
Yes. Well, first, good evening, President
Good
Deal,
evening.
members of council, and Mayor Barnett. Kind of switching gears to another initiative, obviously, that's run through our department that, manages and oversees a lot of money here for our community. It's, that time of the year where we're doing a quarterly update. We've been lucky to work with Jamie as she transitioned Mr. Tom Wackerman out into his land of retirement. But she's done a great job, and we're now getting into really some of the meat, some of the grants. We've done a lot of assessments, and we're still doing a lot of assessments, and that data is rolling in. But now we're starting to really start the big discussions about what can be done on these properties. And I anticipate we'll be having a subcommittee meeting here probably within the next month or so to kind of give an update. But with that, Jamie is here to give a brief overview of where we are, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Very good.
Good evening, President
Good evening.
Deal, Mayor Barnett, council members. Up to this point, we've received 9 applications under the grant. This is an update on each of those projects. There are also a few other changes in the way this is being presented to you. Since the last meeting where we told you that the grant had been expanded to the entire city, we've changed kind of the way that we're tracking so that what you're seeing is not areas A, B, and C, which aren't relevant anymore, but city projects versus projects that are being run by developers. So that's the distinction in the report that you received. For developer projects, first up we have the Hamlin Road landfill, also known as Madison Park. This is moving along. Most of the field work for the first 2 work plans has been completed, and we've received reports which have been reviewed and approved by Eagle for those actions. We are working on work plan number 3, which has some additional investigation and includes some geotechnical assessment. That work plan has been reviewed and some additional edits have been requested from the applicant, but I think it's very near to being approved. There were fairly minor edits that were left to be made. Alongside that, the applicant has been working on a draft brownfield plan and some potential scenarios for a TIF request that may come before the board later in the year or possibly next year. I'm not sure what that timing looks like. We haven't seen a revised application for remediation come in yet, but I anticipate that's going to be one of the next steps, and that will come before City Council. We are currently working with them to try and get their costs a little bit more solidified and trying to understand what costs are eligible under the grant versus a potential TIF request before they submit that application and we bring it before anyone to approve. For the Highland Park Woodfill site, work plans 1, 2, and 3 have been approved and all the work has been completed. Right now, they're in a data evaluation phase, so we haven't seen much of the results from the last work plan. We've seen a few preliminary presentations from them, and that's all. We're expecting to hear quite a bit more from them towards the end of this year. They've indicated that their wetland determination should be submitted here in the next couple weeks, as well as a potential preliminary site plan that they've been working on with Pulte. Both of those are supposed to come in the month of September. We anticipate that there will then be an application that includes remediation, which obviously will come before City Council. Right now, it's looking like those numbers will be somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million, but we don't actually have an application in to know. That's just based on just talking with them. On the St. Theodora property, we've received work plan 1 and it's been approved, but we haven't received the report documenting those activities. That was just for background research, FOIAing state files, understanding the current conditions on the property. We're anticipating this next work plan for assessment on the property to come in sometime soon. The Sandfill landfill number 1 had an application. It was rejected, and we haven't had a new application, although there is some interest on the property since then. And then actually a change to what you received, the 1765 East Hamlin Road property. We actually, the day after this was generated, received the subgrant agreement signed by the applicant. That's been processed by the city, and they are currently working on their first work plan. I spoke with their consultant on Friday, and she's expecting that to be submitted within the next 2 weeks. As far as the city projects that have been funded under the grant, the sewer extension project is complete. We received the final invoice from the dewatering contractor, so once we get that processed and submitted for reimbursement, that project will be closed out. The Allen Park project, we actually finished the drilling out there last week, so we don't have any results yet, but the drilling is done, the wells are in, soil gas points are in. And then the Livernois and Auburn projects are completed and in the process of being closed out right now. There are a couple of additional projects or additional applicants that have come forward and met with Sarah, met with the city, but we haven't received formal applications. There's interest on the Sandfill landfill number 1 property. There's interest on the Stan's trucking property. So definitely some more projects that we anticipate to come forward. We just haven't seen them in writing yet. I don't know if you wanted to add anything on that. Okay.
It's all conceptual.
Okay. And then other than that, the grant team is working on some other items that are on our list. One is revising the grant application and the policies and procedures document that govern it. We're trying to make sure that we have in writing all of the changes that Eagle approved at the beginning of the year, including extending the end date, extending the boundary to the entire city. We're just trying to get all of those changes formalized in the application document. The 7th request for reimbursement, which covered the 3rd quarter of fiscal year 2025, was submitted in August. We are in the process of pulling estimated amounts for the 4th quarter of fiscal year 2025, which has to be submitted to Eagle by October 1st. So we're working on that right now. And then we're meeting every other week, and then every other week with Eagle on opposing weeks to continue moving these items forward. We've also increased the frequency with which we're meeting with the applicants since the last time we met, meeting with both the Madison Park and the Highland Park Woodfill teams biweekly as their progress continues to pick up and they're doing more work and have more questions for the team. The budget is attached. It does not include the newly awarded subgrant agreement that came in right after this was done, but it includes everything other than that up to that point. And you'll see the schedule, which has not been changed since the last update. It reflects the extended grant end dates. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Very good. Thank you so much for that report this evening. We do have some questions from council. We'll start with Mrs. Mangioli.
Thank you, President Deal. Thank you very much for all of this. It's always nice to know that our city is cleaning up a mess that others made in our community generations before us. So thank you for all the work. As the one applicant is asking for $20 million, which is almost a third of our total grant amount, what criteria has the committee set for saying, okay, we're going to give you 20, but that means the rest of you are only going to get X, or we're going to give 2 of you are going to get the biggest chunk, and the rest of you just scrape off some dirt, and we'll call it good. So how are we balancing out those different requests and the scope of work that they're allowed to consider?
That's a great question, and something that we've been talking about since kind of the beginning of this grant. And, you know, we weren't sure, you know, we got $75 million. Was it going to be beating the doors down, you know, on day 2? Or, you know, here we are almost 2 years into it, and we're still, you know, trying to get kind of the big projects moving. So the application that we've created, there was the original assessment, which, again, we've done a lot administratively. But now when you actually get into the remediation, that's tied to a site plan. And so that site plan has to come before the city. And as we amended our ordinance through a PUD process that basically comes directly to council. And so the idea is that as we review these projects, recognizing that this starts as an environmental grant, right? The main initiative was to do substantial environmental cleanup. But it's not just that in a vacuum, right? We don't want to just necessarily clean up land and do nothing with it. It's also to generate some additional housing, additional jobs, so things of that nature. So it's really up to the subcommittee and the council as we get applications moving forward that balance the level of cleanup and what the end result is, and their financial contributions as well, as to how the project comes together in terms of how it aligns with the city's vision for what we want from a land use standpoint, and again, and how much they're actually improving the environment, not just on their property, but the immediate area around it. So it is a discretionary review, you know, by the city, but it is a level of, you know, I want to say first come, first serve of how much money's out there, but we don't want to spend all of our money just on one project, right? We need to evaluate how we think that ties into the greater picture of the city and our goals and objectives.
And also Eagle has some requirements too about, you know, you can't just, you have to match funding that is for environmental, for non-environmental work. So there's some other layers of directives that are applied to the funding.
Okay, so it's not that we're just going to have a developer come in, take down some trees, put down a concrete slab and say, I cleaned it up.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, so that's one thing we balance with these inquiries that Jamie referenced. You know, we have a lot of people that come in and say, okay, you have $75 million, I want to build self-storage. And I was like, I'm not sure that we're really interested in giving you $20 million to build self-storage. You know, we're interested in cleanup. We're also interested in what is it going to, you know, bring to the community after the fact. And so if someone came and said, hey, we're looking to build, you know, a high-tech, you know, national headquarters, you know, then we're more interested. I said, you know, the city is probably more apt to work with you to figure out what the level of commitment will be. And as Jamie kind of referenced, in addition to the Eagle grant, a lot of these projects are going to be going to the Brownfield Authority asking for TIF dollars as well. So there's different rules, right, that regulate what you can be eligible for reimbursement from the Brownfield Authority versus what can be done under the grant. And so, again, it's also a balancing act of private investment, TIF dollars, and Eagle grant dollars.
And does the Madison Park fall into the LDFA?
It does not.
It does not, because when I'm looking at this pretty map that's in the LDFA packet, I was wondering, who's this little purple smudge over here?
Right, that's the whole Austin extension, Devondale,
Okay.
off of Crooks.
Oh, that's right, because, well, no, 59, Oh, it's on the other side.
on south side of 59.
It's on the north side. Madison's on the north side of 59.
Correct.
So can we ask them to join the
So
LDFA?
that's actually kind of where we started when we were talking about the LDFA plan, is what are the pros and cons of adding additional properties into the mix? And so there's some cons that go along with that as well. If we are looking for the LDFA from a tax capture standpoint, then that's less money we have to reimburse if we did a brownfield on the property, because we're also pulling from the same tax that are generated from the new development. And so there's kind of a balancing act. And so instead of trying to analyze all that within this December 31st deadline, we opted to keep the boundaries exactly as they are,
Okay.
and then work with Jamie's team and ASTI and our friends who have left us.
They're out in the hallway.
They're out in the hallway to kind of balance, what makes the most sense from a financial standpoint, and what's the best stretching of the dollars, if you will, for Madison Park. Is it to put in the LDFA, or is it to allow them to use brownfield funding? Because it's hard to do both.
Right. But when you consider the original maps, some of the properties were quite large. And now when you start throwing in the entire city, and it's only 75 million, which we said we knew would never clean up everything in the city. I was just wondering if you only have to go an inch deep, not a yard deep, and that will get you qualified for one of the grants.
Well, and there's different levels of cleanup, even just the Avon Highland Park Woodfill. I mean, they're looking for a residential cleanup, which is a different,
Which is
price
a
tag
lot
than
deeper.
non-residential. And that's going to be a discussion we're going to have once they submit their application and we see what the end product is and how their plan presents itself, whether it be a mixture of TIF and Eagle and where that lands. And we'll have to make that call. Is the city willing to commit 20 million to that one property? And that's a policy call that we'll have to make.
And none of this changes any of our existing zoning that overlays those properties, so they can't come in and ask for a skyscraper or...
No, but that's why we said all the plans, all the projects that are going to be developed under the Eagle Grant will go through a PUD process, which allows the city to negotiate what we think is the best use of each of those properties.
Okay. And that PUD would allow us to say, you cleaned it up, thank you very much. You're still only 3 stories because that's what zoning allows in the area.
Yeah,
Okay,
good.
cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
There
no
is
problem.
no
Thank you.
resolution for me to approve, but thank you very much for all this work. I'm looking forward to the next report that you bring to us. Thank you very much.
And I just wanted to raise, also, there are certain decision points that, in this process, that come to council. Could you just briefly go over the decision points that would come out of the Eagle Committee into council for council decisions?
Right, so when they submit an application, right, that is something that we look at with our subcommittee. And then we decided that as an administrative determination to allow assessments, because we determined that,
Right.
Knowledge is what we want out of this, to know what's going on. So we made that administrative function. But when you get into actual remediation work to actually improve the environment, that's what comes to council. And so, like I said, that's when we start spending the real dollars, if you will, right? And that's why we wanted to tie that to an actual site plan. So we don't just give someone $20 million and all they build is a slab of concrete and
Right.
park RVs on it. Would we give them $20 million for that? Maybe, but would we rather give $20 million to someone who's going to build, I don't know,
Right.
something that's going to create jobs or housing options? So, that's really the main decision point, which comes back to council for
Right.
each and every property.
And so council will weigh in on a case-by-case basis
Yes.
as each one of those move through the
Correct.
system. Very good. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for, coming back and periodically reporting to us on this. This is, as Councilwoman Mangioli pointed out, this is really an opportunity for the city and, to make good on our environmental promise. And so I thank you both for your presentation here this evening and for all of your hard work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next up is public comment for items not on the agenda. This is an opportunity for members of the public wishing to make public comment on any item that does not appear on our agenda. I do not have any blue public comment cards. I don't see anybody looking to approach the podium, so I will at this time go ahead and close public comment and move forward to the consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If any council member or citizen requests discussion of an item, it will be removed from the consent agenda for a separate discussion. I have not been made aware of any request to modify the consent agenda. We have a motion by Mrs. Newbauer, seconded by Mrs. Moreland. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposition? No, and so that passes unanimously. And that moves us on to legislative and administrative comments. Do we have any legislative or administrative comments this evening? I don't see any legislative comments, but I'll bet we have some administrative comments.
Say it like you're excited about it, President Deal.
So excited.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Again, I'll make a few comments this evening, and mostly all really positive news. Ms. Wisburn, if you could please share my screen. Wanted to draw your attention to a couple items that I think you've seen before, but maybe not everyone in the city has, maybe those viewing. One of those that's been really popular has been the new batting cages. They're called passive batting cages. Used to have those old ones there, you put the quarter in and 2 out of 3 pitches would come at your head. This is kind of a better scenario. They've been really popular with we posted on Facebook, and tons of great comments and feedback on these already. Kind of use at your own risk, but a unique thing that doesn't exist everywhere, and as more and more people are finding out about them, they look really sharp and they're getting more and more use. So we'll keep you updated on some usage numbers, but really excited to have these in. Much easier to take care of, obviously, than the old. Literally, I think there was one guy from Florida that could fix the old one, and we had to fly him up every time we needed something. So this is much, much better, and really credit our parks team for thinking kind of in an innovative way. Speaking of parks, somebody in the crowd might recognize somebody out there, Mr. Lindbergh, I think. We closed the beach on last Monday, on Labor Day. Historically, there is a call just after 7 o'clock. They all get together and call me and give the year-end numbers. Of course, the most important one is that this was another fantastic year with no real safety issues, but they did find 19 lost kids. They welcomed 120,000 swimmers. They rented paddle boats at least over 1,000 times. They had 6,000 campers, and they sold over 2,000 hot dogs. So it was a very busy summer. Of course, you remember last year they kind of had an abated year because of the parking lot. They had a very full summer, and we thank all of our lifeguards and the HR team for finding lifeguards. Lifeguards aren't easy to find, but had a great season at Spencer Park, and they'll be back at it again next year. So we thank them for that. Speaking of parks, keeping in parks, so we opened up the brand new restrooms. Those look like they're 900 feet tall in that picture. They're only 800 feet tall. They're beautiful restrooms that opened up last Friday, and believe it or not, we'll probably pass 500,000 visitors to Innovation Hills this year. And to this point, until Friday, we never had a bathroom with running water. And so despite all the accolades, despite all the recommendations and the wonderful comments we get, this was incredibly needed. We thank Oakland County Parks for their help with this. And we grabbed a few folks that were on there. We passed out ice cream. Councilman Walker, appreciate you being there. And many members of our team. They're open. And an additional benefit of this couple, they have a room on the side that our staff can use. And because the playground is so busy, they can actually work and sit and see the playground. You know where they are now. They're currently on the other side of the long playground with really no visual ability to see what's going on. So they're much closer both for them and for the public. Additionally, this restroom facility has a sound system, which is great for letting folks know about inclement weather or whatever announcement we might have to make. Before it was just yell as loud as you can. Now we've got actually a really nice system and way to do that. So congratulations to Ken and his team for getting that in and open, and it's open as of Friday. Great opportunity with our friends in Rochester. Hopefully all of you hit the Art and Apples Festival. Paint Creek Center for the Arts. You see Sean, the tall guy in the picture on the right, is the director of Paint Creek Center for the Arts. They had 3 beautiful weather days. Wonderful festival. I know a lot of our team was there. There's a lot of joint work on public safety and traffic and so forth, but really a wonderful event for the community, and we thank so many folks that came out and congratulate them for the great work they've done. I want to recognize, speaking of great work, one of our team members, Doreen Groth from the DPS department. She received an award from the fire department. Doreen leads our GIS team, and she made some really wonderful recommendations, put together a really a whole program that was so recognized that the sort of the national group called ESRI picked it up and included it in their free software packages for all fire departments to use. Really a very innovative thinker on our team, and the fire department recognized her excellence, and so we recognize her today as well for doing some great work in leading the GIS department and making changes not just for us locally, but changes that are so great they're being adopted nationwide. Speaking of the fire department, of course, September 11th is a busy day. We know we've got the event at the OPC later, but of course, if you want to start the day as we do every year at the Fire Station 1 for our September 11th Remembrance Ceremony. Appreciate Chief Gary and his team for leading on this. It's always it's a short ceremony, usually about 30 minutes, but always very appropriate, with a piece of twisted steel from the Twin Towers that sits in front of Station 1, and is a wonderful opportunity for our community to get together and remember the events of those days. Almost a quarter century ago now, if you can believe that, 24 years ago. Kind of hard to believe that. But the community is invited Thursday, September 11th at 9 a.m. To the fire station. And then, of course, the big event for our team, for me personally, and for many of our staff, is the State of the City, Defying Gravity. If you're a Wicked fan, you probably recognize some of the graphics. But State of the City will be Thursday, September 18th at 7 p.m. Encourage you to get there a little bit earlier. Thank the Youth Council for their help in making it a great show. And, of course, all of our team. We have a ton of team members that help make this possible. And watch the directors. You guys excited for this show? That was a real woo, guys. Those were real unforced woos back there. Excited about it. But anyway, encourage folks to RSVP, because we always want to make sure we have enough seats. That's Stony Creek High School, Thursday, September 18th. And that's all for tonight, President Deal. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Barnett. And that concludes the legislative and administrative comments. We'll move on to the attorney's report. Ms. Chris, do you have anything for us this evening?
I have nothing this evening.
Very good. And that brings us on to new business. We'll kick things off with item number 2024-0253, request for purchase authorization, fire, increase to the contract blanket purchase order for emergency medical billing services in the amount of $70,000 for a new not to exceed amount of $273,000 through December 31st, 2025, EMS Management and Consultants, Inc., Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Good evening.
Good evening, President Deal, City Council, Mayor Barnett. We are here this evening, to request authorization to increase our contract blanket purchase authorization for our EMS billing, our emergency medical billing, to company EMS Management and Consulting. We would like to increase this by $70,000. Normally, or last year, we prospected all of our billing needs, or our authorization needs, for through historical data, and we've exceeded those numbers. This will take us through the end of the year, at which time we are also reviewing through other contract bids of our billing authorization through future, starting January 1st. Did you want to say anything about that?
A small portion of this money that we're requesting for the blanket increase is also for motor vehicle accident billing. So approximately $3,000 to $5,000 of that would be for billing, because we found out that billing ourselves is just not working out really well, and the collections and everything else dealing with attorneys. So it's much easier for the billing company, who's already established that, to do the billing for us.
Very good. Thank you very much. We have a motion by Mr. Blair, seconded by Mrs. Neubauer, to approve. I don't see any further discussion or public comment on this item. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes an increase to the contract blanket purchase order for emergency medical billing services to EMS Management and Consultants, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, in the amount of $70,000 for a new not to exceed amount of $273,000 through December 31st, 2025. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, 2025-0367, request for purchase authorization, fire, purchase of 20 Cradle Point modems for the mobile data computers, or MDCs, for the fire department apparatus in the amount of $26,462, CDW-G, Chicago, Illinois. Good evening.
Good evening, President Deal, Mayor Barnett, and council. Before you is a request to redo our mobile fleet for our fire department for our modems that they use for their MDCs. They are at end of life, first of the year, and we're out of warranty next month.
Okay.
So reason is very clear.
Right. Very good. We have a motion by Mrs. Newbauer, seconded by Mr. Blair. I don't see any further discussion or public comment on this item. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes the purchase of 20 new Cradle Point modems for the fire department apparatus to CDW-G, Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $26,462. It is further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and approval of the award of a contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon the parties entry into and execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, 2025-0125, request for purchase authorization, DPS Engineering, increase to the blanket purchase order or contract for the Brewster Road Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $150,000 with a contingency amount of $100,000 for a new not-to-exceed project amount of $2,734,503.29. Proline Asphalt Paving Corporation, Washington Township, Michigan. Mr. Fritz.
Thank you, and good evening, President Dill, Vice President Carlock, members of council, Mayor Barnett, and Ms. Wang. As you stated, we're here requesting an increase to our purchase order for the construction of the road reconstruction. Joining me here tonight are Tracy Ballin, our city engineer, and Mark Locke with OHM Advisors, our consultant engineer for this project. Tracy has some background comments to share with you as to shed light on this.
Very good.
Good evening.
Good evening.
President Deal, Vice President Carlock, City Council, and Mayor Barnett. Just to give you a little bit of background, first I wanted to give just a quick update on Brewster Road since we're here. In regards to the North Mile, which is Tinkin to Dutton, the top course of asphalt should be placed within the next week or two. The road will then be striped and construction signage will be removed. And the milling of the southern mile is expected to begin later this week with paving operations to begin shortly thereafter. To give you a brief summary of an explanation of why we're here, unfortunately, it's an unforeseen circumstance that has us here this evening. During the design phase of this project, based on as-built plans and pavement cores, the project was designed and bid with an HMA cross-section of 5 inches. During the milling of the North Mile, the reality showed that the cross-section was closer to 6.5 inches over the full 2 miles of Brewster Road. In order to replace a full 6.5 inches of HMA, that cost alone is an additional $275,000. So that's an 1.5 inch of full width over 2 miles. So that itself exceeds the original approved contingency. Other factors included in this request are costs related to field modifications on the North Mile and the contingency for the South Mile. Please keep in mind that these are projected quantities and the final project costs will only be known upon completion, and we may find savings in other areas of the project. We will install a thicker pavement cross-section, which is better for long-term stability and durability. Therefore, we are requesting your approval to increase Proline's contract in the amount of an additional amount of $150,000 with a contingency of $100,000 for a new project amount of $2,734,503.29. With that, I would like to open it up for any questions that you may have.
Very good. So basically, as I understand it, this $150,000 would move the project to being over budget by $250,000, which is really less than 10% of the total cost, because it's a very big project. It's in total a $2.7 million project.
Correct.
And the $150,000 that you're asking to increase by is approximately what, less than 5%, maybe a little over 5% of the total project cost, correct?
Right, and we're also using the original contingency.
Right.
So it puts it at 2.7.
Right, so that, for a total like rate of about
Yes.
250, very good,
Yep.
okay, thank you. Mrs. Mangioli?
Thank you, President Deal. I have to tell you, I was tired yesterday when I started going through the packet, and I started getting crankier and crankier as I went by. So I apologize to the rest of the directors that I started asking questions for, because I got to Mr. Fritz first, and then poor Mr. Elward at the end has got like a bazillion questions. So thank you for the answers that you sent to me today. I understand things aren't always what we expect, and I also have a very lengthy email. So Clerk Scott, I would like to make sure the answers that Mr. Fritz gave me on these, as well as the doors and the pipes, and then also Ms. Cummins' comments about purchasing and then not to exceed, because I was so excited when I saw not to exceed on bids, and then every one of the bids that came in today went above and beyond on those not to exceed, and I was told not to exceed meant it wouldn't change unless we asked for it to change. But then we found out on the roads that it wasn't what we were expecting at first. So 5 inches is one thing, 6.5 is another. And I'm sorry, President, I look at the 150,000 plus 100,000, that's 250,000, which is 10% of the overall budget, not
9.1,
5.
not the, 9.1, not the
Yeah, so it was a lot higher than, and then to have a contingency be almost equal to the amount of the overrun was also, I'm used to a 10% contingency, not a 90% contingency. So I just had a lot of questions on this, and how did we miss this soil boring issue, and how do we prevent it from happening again? Because I want to make sure that OHM is not going to miss that in any other future road project. So I'm guessing you're from OHM, and you're going to help answer those questions.
Thank you for having me tonight. Again, my name is Mark Locke. I'm a senior project manager at OHM. You know how this happens, a lot of these extras happen underground. It's things we can't see. We did a lot of soil borings on this project, more than you typically do, because we wanted to get a good handle on that pavement depth. The plans, as Tracy mentioned, were 5 inches. Typically, when you see 5 inches, you get around 5 inches. It's not always exact. It can be 4.5, it can be 5.5, but we were seeing ranges from 4.5 to 7. We had one boring that showed 10 inches of asphalt in one spot, and usually that's a patch. Somebody did a patch or utility crossing or whatnot. So when you look at the average of all those numbers, and that's really all we can do, we don't know what's happening between those borings. You know, how long is the 5-inch section? How long is the 7-inch section? We don't know until you get to the next boring. We take an average, and that average came out to be about 5.5 inches, and that's what we assumed. But in the process of taking that material out, because it varied and it went up and down, they use what's called a mill machine. They grind that pavement out. They have to set that mill machine at a depth. You can't just ride on the bottom of the asphalt. You have to set it at a depth. So they probably cranked that down a little more to make sure they were getting all the asphalt off. That was the aim of the project. It wasn't to leave any asphalt behind. So that's, I think, why we got that additional depth. They probably had that mill machine set a little deeper to ensure that they took all that asphalt material off, and it was more than we assumed. We were assuming more like 5.5, and it came out to be 6.5. And over this length of a project, as Tracy mentioned, that added up to be a lot of money. You know, we were talking with Bill and the mayor here a couple weeks ago, and as they, I think Bill mentioned, how can we turn this bowl of lemons into lemonade? And I almost view this as a great opportunity, because one of the problems with this project was the 5 inches of asphalt that you had on that road. Next time you go to fix that, it's going to be problematic again to fix it with a maintenance fix, a mill and overlay project. You're going to probably have to tear all the asphalt off again and put a whole new asphalt layer in again. By increasing the thickness of it to 6.5 inches, it opens up to much more opportunity opportunities to do something different, more cost efficient, and not have to take the entire 5 off every time you want to do this project over again. So in a kind of a roundabout way, if you will, this may have helped you and helped you guys in the future turn something that was a negative. Obviously, we got to put more money into it, but it really opens the door for in the future. You're going to, like Tracy mentioned, you got a stronger road that'll last longer, and then the next time you fix it, you can do a different type of fix that's going to be cheaper.
So what is the life of this road now?
I would say it's probably close to 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, because I will be retired, and I won't have to worry about going on Brewster any further. Will the road be flatter, seeing that you're now milling it down further? Will the road, instead of having those nice gentle rolling hills roads?
You know, we kept the curb and gutter on the side, so it'll
Right.
be exactly the way it was prior to this.
So
Yep.
does that mean there's still going to be spots that are 10 inches deep and others that are 5 inches?
So we're getting rid of all the material, and we're putting asphalt back in, and we got an even section this time. We're going to have an even 6.5 inches this time.
6.5 inches throughout.
Throughout the whole length of the
So
job.
people might
That's the plan.
realize, I was
That's-
used to being able to take my skateboard and jump it here, and it's not going to be there because
Yep.
it's flatter.
Yep.
Okay. Are we going to be giving as-built drawings to the city? So this
Yes.
way, when Mr. Fritz's grandson is here in 20 years,
Absolutely.
he can say, oh, I remember that road, Grandpa
Yeah.
talked about it.
Exactly, yes.
so-
We always provide as-built on these
All right,
projects. yes.
so how do we make sure that things like this don't happen on other roads that we're doing in the city?
Sure, sure. You know, Tracy, I know I gave you an answer here when we were talking about this earlier, but the more I got to thinking about it, the way you do your projects right now, I think is a good way to do it. You provide a 10% contingency. That handles most of your problems you're ever going to see. Every once in a while, you'll have an outlier like this, which goes beyond that. And I think it's not a bad idea to have your consultant or your contractor come in and explain what happens when you exceed that. So the problem is if you just throw more contingency at the job to prevent this from ever happening, you're going to have to do this on all your jobs. So the cost of your job, the initial bid on your jobs will go up because you have all this contingency baked into the project. That may mean you have to do less projects because you got all this contingency baked in. Now, you may not use it all, but you're going to have to put it in an initial contract. So I'm almost thinking the way you do it now is a good way to do it. And unless you want to avoid having to ever come here, I don't know if I would change anything.
And I'm going to guess it's too late for us to say, nope, not going to give it to you because the road is already
There are
milled and-
options. There are options to change the fix on the southerly mile and do something different. We can do a thinner mill on that. It'll be a different pavement section than the north half. It won't last as long, but it'll be a lot cheaper. So we can bring it back into the original or close to the original
So I'm
cost.
literally between a rock and a hard place
Exactly,
at this point.
exactly. I wouldn't recommend that because there's
Asphalt
risk in
and
that too.
Asphalt and a concrete curb.
Yeah.
So, okay. I guess I would like to hear from the DPS department about future projects and how we should bid them out, given the suggestion about how to build contingency into the road funding piece of this. I mean, we spend so much on roads, and I think there's a lot coming up next year as well. And then in '27, don't we have Rochester Road that we're doing also?
That's MDOT's road.
Yeah, so I would hope that we would have some proposal to know with the budget, to understand why we may be budgeting more for our roads to overcome situations like this, where we're not coming back after the fact and having to ask for more money to make it happen.
One idea that we thought of was to, I agree with what Mark said, but one idea where we could be a little more conservative is maybe over the last couple of years, kind of take a look at where numbers have been high, right, on existing projects, and maybe that is where you put more of a safety factor on a few of those items that would give you a little more extra cushion in the project. But I was thinking of looking at really just more specific line items that typically have come in higher than what we estimate.
Okay. And do we have as-built drawings for all the other road projects that we've done in the last 6 years?
We do. Yes, we
Okay.
do. You always get as-built.
So 14 years from now, we're good.
We are good. Yeah, and, going back 30 years or 20 years, sometimes we don't have, the best information, but hopefully we are getting really good information now. So 20 years from now, it's really accurate.
Guess this is just sort of set the tone for me, sorry guys, for the rest of the meeting, but thank you very much for bad news, maybe, but good news going forward, because we're going to set a process in place to not have this happen again, right? Yes?
We will try.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Carlock, Vice President Carlock, with that, I move the resolution in our packet begrudgingly.
Thank you. And I have a second by Mrs. Newbauer. Next up is Mr. Walker.
Just a point of clarification, Tracy. You mentioned a $275,000 increase for the 2 miles of Brewster. So you're looking for another $275 for additional material?
Yeah, so the 275 was just the additional 1.5 inch of HMA over the full width for 2 miles.
Okay, but that's not the total cost to do the work.
Correct. So there were additional items that we came across on the North Mile that we would use the contingency for. So those items are included in that cost. So that's why the number is more than the 275. And then since the contingency has essentially been used, that's where the additional $100,000 contingency for the South Mile. Obviously, we're hoping we don't use that.
Yeah, I'm just going back to do the math. We had a $225,000 contingency, which was the 10% of the original agreement.
Correct.
Plus another $150, so you're at $375.
Correct.
Plus an additional $100 for contingency. So really, we're like $475 over budget for this project, or about 18% of the $2 million and change. So it's a pretty big miss. I mean, when you're looking at almost 20%. But again,
Correct.
It happens. When you start digging in
Unfortunately.
the dirt, you find things that are unfortunate. But I believe it would be in our best interest to put the road back with the full 6.5 inches of asphalt and do the entire 2 miles. I hope we don't find something disturbing in the south section, or more disturbing than we did in the north section. But above Tinkin, all bets are off. That's uncivilized area of our community. Below Tinkin, it's much cleaner and more stable. I can attest to that. But no, I just appreciate the clarification. In my mind, it's the 475 overage that we're looking for.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes, the Badlands north of Tinkin. Mayor Barnett. That's what I hear.
So many opportunities there. I'll pass on all of them. So just so council knows, as I touted the strength of our team earlier, all these things are really important to me. So when we have a situation like this, I take them personally. I want to make sure I understand, as the mayor, what happened, because I take ownership. Ultimately, there's a reflection on me as well. And so I think I found out on a Friday, and I asked Mr. Fritz to have his team assembled on Monday along with Mark at 9 a.m. in my office. And I asked all the same questions that I saw you asking. I'm not a road guy, but I would imagine that, you look at how much material you need, how long is the road, and that equation equals how much it should be. So, what part of the equation did we miss? And, I was, ready to pound the table and see where we made a mistake. And we did, I think, 50 soil borings on this, something like this.
26?
26 or every 50 feet or something like that. Like it wasn't, I tried to find where we skimped on something, or where we, did something where we didn't, we tried to do something less expensive. And it did appear that, it was just a really unfortunate circumstance that we bored here, and it was, what we thought it would be. And then when we got a foot over, it was, an 1.5 inches deeper. So I'm not sure we could have predicted that unless we did triple the amount of soil borings, or did them, in a sort of ridiculous amount. I told Mark, I said, Mark, you have to promise me 2 things. 1, you're going to do your absolute best to not go over this new amount. And 2, you're going to be at the council meeting to explain this as well. Because when we hire a consultant, we expect them to deliver for us, and we expect them to support us. And when there's something that isn't like this, again, this is very unusual. We don't have I don't know if some of you council members have never had a meeting like this where we've missed something like this. So it is important to us, Mark, that you understand our council is very interested in this, that, you know, when you do work for us in the future, which I know you will, your team does a great job, that you understand how important it is that we deliver on these. And Tracy, thank you for your leadership on this throughout it. I'm heavily involved in this, and we'll make sure that this one gets delivered despite the raucous nature of the people north of Tinkin. We will deliver this one, and ultimately, like I said, we'll try and make the most of it. Moving forward, we will have a longer performing road. You know, just so you know, on the other side, I dove into this one deep personally with limited knowledge, trying to understand how I could present better to you. And it appears like this is just really was a very unusual situation where, you know, we did all the right things in advance to get good information, but it was a little bit different in application. So thank you for being here, Mark, and thank you for the time, council.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Barnett. We do have a motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Mrs. Newbauer. That motion, I'll read it into the record. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes an increase to the blanket purchase order contract for the Brewster Road Rehabilitation Project to Proline Asphalt Paving Corp., Washington Township, Michigan, in the amount of $150,000 with a project contingency in the amount of $100,000 for a new not-to-exceed project amount of $2,734,503.29, and further authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement on behalf of the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have item 2025-0361, request for purchase authorization, DPS Engineering, contract blanket purchase order for pipeline condition assessment services in the amount of $165,091 with a 10% project contingency in the amount of $16,509.13 for a total not to exceed project amount of $181,600.38. Superior Excavating, Auburn Hills, Michigan. Mr. Fritz.
Thank you once again. As you just stated, we're requesting purchase order to do some water main pipeline condition assessment throughout the city on our large water mains. And again, Tracy has prepared some information for you.
Thank you. Just give you a little bit of background. This is part of the Drinking Water Asset Management Grant, which is called DWAM, which Rochester Hills was awarded in December 2021. It has actually been a really great grant. The pipeline condition assessment is the last project to be completed under this grant. And the grant is due to be completed in December of 2025. So good timing. Just to give you a little more background on what this project consists of. The purpose of this project is to determine the integrity of a critical portion of the city's transmission system. The transmission mains are usually 16-inch and larger. We usually don't tap domestic services on them, but they're like the backbone of our drinking water system. What we found over recent years is pipelines with PCCP, which is pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe, diameter is greater than 16-inch, are starting to fail. Our larger mains are from the early 70s. Recently, there's new testing technologies that allow you to test the integrity of the main from the outside of the main. But you have to do an excavation at locations. We have 6 to 8 different locations. You expose about 30 feet of the pipe, and there's a gentleman from Virginia that is going to come in and do some testing. It's newer here in the area, so people are pretty excited to see this testing. So he does testing from the outside of the pipe, so the transmission system is not being shut down, which is very critical. That would be very difficult to do. But it's testing for joint failure. It's testing for, they can determine if wires have been broke within the cylinder pipe, and kind of gives you a determination of the integrity of the concrete pipe. So once that is completed, so Superior Excavating is actually going to excavate these locations, and then they have their sub-consultant from Virginia is going to come in and do the testing. They backfill. This all occurs within a day. And then at the end of this, we will get a report which will tell us the condition of these pipes and will allow us to prepare better in the future for CIP projects of these bigger transmission mains. So therefore, we are requesting your approval of pipeline condition assessment to Superior Excavating, who we work with a lot, in the amount of $181,638. That includes a 10% project contingency. So do you guys have any questions?
Very good. And so the contract is being granted to Superior Excavating, who does the excavating services, and then the guy from Virginia comes in as a subcontractor to do the actual inspection work.
That's correct. And we actually just had a conference call with him last week, and he's still on schedule to come in when Superior is ready to go to do the work.
Very good. Mrs. Mangioli.
Thank you, President Deal. So is the contractor's cost included in this $181,000 then? Yep.
It's the whole, they have, it's the subconsultant and Superior to do the work.
All right, great,
Yes.
thank you. So again, Clerk Scott, this is another one, thank you very much for your answers in advance and the map that you provided as to where all of the
helps.
excavation is going to be. It looks like it's primarily major roads?
Correct.
City roads that it's
Correct,
going to be
because that's where
on?
the transmission mains are typically located.
Okay, so when you start looking at some of these, are subdivisions going to be notified? Because, all right, it's all about me. It's my subdivision that's got number 6 on it. And so I'm just wondering, how does a homeowners association get notified that you're going to be digging up in the common area that they're currently maintaining, and not have them worried that it's going to be left a mess after?
So the excavations are within the right-of-way, and we are working with the road commission. We have a permit from the road commission to do the work.
Okay.
So we weren't expecting to issue any notification, as it should have minimal impact or no impact on the residents.
Okay, or even because even what's going on along Avon Road out in front here with the pipes, I'm like, what are we doing on Avon Road? So it helps to have an idea of what we're doing and where. This way, when residents ask us, we can explain to them that we're checking to make sure your water is not going to fail, that this is a preemptive work that you're doing with these.
Yeah, and each location is less than a day. So this isn't like we're installing the water main on Avon Road. They've been out there for a couple weeks. You probably saw them, pulling back the water main. This is open the pit, do his testing, backfill, and restore the property. So it's one day. They were even talking last week when we had our call with Superior Excavating. They could potentially do 2 in a day. So it's a pretty quick project. 1 or 2 weeks tops, we're done. Okay. So you're only going to see an excavation in that area 9 to 3, like during, one day.
Okay, and none of it's going to be near a road that we've just fixed, right?
No, they're mostly on, like you said, road commission, major roads.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. And I also wanted to thank you for the update you gave us on Brewster Road. It's always nice to hear that we're moving along and going to be done soon. I get to sit with some school board members at different boards, and they're like, can Brewster, is it open? Is it ready? Can we go? So thank you very much for all the work you're doing there as well.
Sure, thank you.
With that, President Deal, I move the resolution in our packet.
Motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Vice President Carlock. And I don't see any further discussion on this item or public comment, so I will go ahead. We have a motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Vice President Carlock. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes a contract blanket purchase order for pipeline condition assessment services to Superior Excavating, Auburn Hills, Michigan, in the amount of $165,091.25 for a 10%, with a 10% project contingency in the amount of $16,509.13 for a total not to exceed project amount of $181,600.38, and further authorizes the procurement manager to execute an agreement on behalf of the city. It is further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and the approval of the award of a contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon the parties' entry into an execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
And that moves us on to item number 2025-0370, request for purchase authorization, facilities, project budget for the purchase and installation of 3 high-speed fabric doors in the Department of Public Services parking garage in the amount not to exceed $155,607.28. KVM Door Systems, Inc., Clinton Township, Michigan.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Barnett, President Deal, members of the City Commission. Before you have the high-speed doors for KVM over the DPS. We're looking to install those to help reduce the wear and tear of the old doors that we have there, as well as those doors that are currently there when they open up, they typically stay open all day. The new high-speed doors zip up and down real quick as vehicles approach, allowing, the cold air to stay out in the wintertime a lot better, as well as any wind that is carrying any kind of dirt and debris and all that kind of stuff, try to keep the facility a lot cleaner. So open the floor up to any questions you guys might have.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. Mrs. Mangioli.
Thank you, President Deal. Again, Clerk's got the answers that Mr. Vazenko provided, if we could include those in the packet. And I do
Without
want
objection, they'll be included.
And I want to thank you very much for providing the answers, the YouTube video, so that I can see how it all works, the weather resistance and how it'll keep the bays warm in the wintertime, so that we don't have to worry about the door just opening and closing, but high speed, so it's going to keep climates better. How the doors will work. So they answered a lot of my questions, and with that, I move the resolution in our packet.
Motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Mrs. Moreland. I don't see any further discussion or public comment on this item, so I'll read the resolution. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes a project budget for the purchase and installation of 3 high-speed fabric doors in the Department of Public Services parking garage to KVM Door Systems, Inc., Clinton Township, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $155,607.28, and further authorizes the procurement manager to execute any needed agreements on behalf of the city. It is further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and the approval of award of a contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon the parties' entry into an execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And next up, we have 2025-0373, request for purchase authorization, facilities, blanket purchase order, contract for the Borden Park Grounds Maintenance Building Locker Room renovation in the amount of $189,560.87 with a 10% project contingency of $18,956.09 for a total not to exceed project amount of $208,516.96. Lang Constructors, Inc., Flint, Michigan. Gentlemen.
Good evening, President Deal, Vice President Carlock, City Council, Mayor Barnett. The item in front of you is the locker room renovations at Borden Park. The existing locker rooms were basically just old and outdated, and now that we have male and female staff members, we needed a place that they could go and change and after to get ready for work, and when they're done at the end of their day to get out of their uniforms and go back home. So with that being said, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. We have one council comment. Mrs. Mangioli.
Thank you, President Deal. I did explain I was cranky last night, and I started going through the agenda and asked lots of questions. So I, again, want to thank Mr. Vazenko for all of the answers that he provided and a diagram of what you're going to do. So we're not changing the outside footprint of the building. It is changing inside. Just for those at home who want to know, I got the floor plan, square footage. This building hasn't been changed in 20 years, and we've been making our staff live like this for a long time.
It hasn't gone through any improvements inside, and it looks like it. This will be a big improvement for the staff.
So it's probably a good thing it's been a long time, but it's a bad thing it's been a long time, so, okay. And getting rid of cloth booths, okay. As long as our HR department is okay with how this is being configured and it allows for privacy of our staff, that is important. So again, President Deal, if it's okay if we have these questions and answers be put as part of the minutes from this meeting?
Yes, without objection, they'll be included.
Thank you very much. And with that, I move the resolution in our packet.
Motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Mrs. Neubauer. And I don't see any further council comments or questions, so we'll read the resolution. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes blanket purchase order contract for the Borden Park Grounds Maintenance Building Locker Room renovation to Lang Constructors, Inc., Flint, Michigan, in the amount of $189,560.87 with a 10% project contingency of $18,956.09 for a total not to exceed project amount of $208,516.96, and further authorizes the procurement manager to execute an agreement on behalf of the city. It is further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and the approval of award of the contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon the parties entering into an execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, item number 2025-0371, request for purchase authorization parks, blanket purchase order contract for the Spencer Park dock expansion and new kayak launch in the amount of $1,267,245. No cents, with a 5% project contingency in the amount of $63,362.25 for a total not to exceed project amount of $1,330,607.25. Warren Contractors Development, Shelby Township, Michigan. Mr. Elwer.
Good evening, President Deal, Vice President Carlock, City Council, Mayor Barnett. You have before you a request, really sort of two merged projects, if you will, a renovation of the dock and sort of rental boat dock area on the north side of the lake, and also a new public kayak launch on the south part of the lake that was determined by a significant amount of public input through our multi-year process on collecting data on what they'd like to see, residents would like to see at different parks. And so you have that before you with quite a few drawings from the one side and a few additional drawings from the kayak landing portion, and appreciate the additional questions on some of this, and just to highlight the 5% contingency especially. That we're confident on the 5% contingency on this one for the reasons, as I stated in the email answers on this, that again, it's a renovation, we're not ripping it up. And also even on the kayak launch, we've done that before, essentially, and so we are familiar with that as well. And budget-wise, it is a little bit over what is budgeted. However, due to strong management in Nowak and Frous and ourselves on the Spencer Park parking lot project, we aren't dipping into contingency at all on that. And with your approval tonight, we would be able to utilize those funds for these changes, and with no additional drain on the general fund, as Mr. Snyder had written. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elwert. And I know you have statistical and data that shows the popularity and need for this. I only have anecdotal data in that every time my son goes out there and he's fishing on that dock, there are always people there. It is always being consistently used. So I know that it will be a very popular and well-used expansion to the dock. That's really nice that it's going to have a lot more area. And you see a lot of little kids out there too that use it, so. Let's see, Mrs. Mongioli.
Yes, thank you, President. So I actually went to the end of the agenda and worked my way back up. So that's how come you got so many questions to begin with. Sorry, Mr. Vysenko. Because this one really, 5% contingency, that after 25% contingency and using it all up on the roads, this was like, how did we do 5% on this one? So again, thank you for your answers to the questions. And President Deal, if we could make sure that the questions and answers get into the record, I'd appreciate it.
Without objection.
Because it was going from so much to so little was surprising. And I'm grateful for the fact that your team is using this from experience and being able to handle that the pictures were the fishing dock, not the boats or the kayak, which is at another spot on the lake, not this spot on the lake.
Sorry for the confusion on that. The
No,
map would
that's
have helped
okay.
in the beginning.
I will say, I had never kayaked before until I did it at a program that you had on Carter Lake. And so that's why I was really interested in this, because I know we had talked to your team about what they do there and the use of the kayaks, and I was looking forward to saying, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kayak again. That's why the questions on if we're going to be renting them or we can use personal kayaks to come out to the lake. So thank you for all of the answers that you provided in here. Mr. Andrews, good luck in managing this project. 5% not to exceed. I'm good. With that, President Deal, I move the resolution in our packet.
Motion by Mrs. Mongioli, seconded by Mrs. Moreland.
and we hope to see you out on the lake as well.
Very good.
Next year.
So with that, we have a motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Mrs. Moreland, and I don't see any further council comments or public comment on this item. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes blanket purchase order contract for the Spencer Park dock expansion and new kayak launch to Warren Contractors and Development, Inc., Shelby Township, Michigan, in the amount of $63,362.25 for a total not to exceed project amount of $1,330,607.25, and further authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement on behalf of the city. It is further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and approval of the award of a contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon the parties' entry into an execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have item number 2025-0372. Parks blanket purchase order or contract for the professional engineering services for the Spencer Park dock expansion and new kayak launch project in the amount not to exceed $176,020 to Noack and Frost Engineers, Pontiac, Michigan. Mr. Elwart.
Good evening again. Yes, we just decided we're going to do 0% contingency and manage it ourselves.
Right. And zero engineering on the project at all.
Right. And so, yes, you have the request in front of you for Noack and Frost to provide engineering construction management support for this particular project. And we've worked with them for multiple years on a variety of projects on this. And if there's any questions, just supports
Very
the
good.
last conversation.
Very good. We have a motion by Mrs. Newbauer, seconded by Mrs. Moreland. Without any further council comments or public comment, resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes a blanket purchase order contract for professional engineering services for Spencer Park dock expansion and new kayak launch in the project to Noack and Frost Engineers, Pontiac, Michigan, in the amount not to exceed $176,020, and further authorizes the procurement manager to execute a written agreement on behalf of the city. It is further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and the approval of the award of a contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon the parties entering into an execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously.
Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Well, we moved on to that part of the evening where there being no further business before the Rochester Hills City Council. We have a motion by Mrs. Mangioli, seconded by Mrs. Newbauer to adjourn. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. The next regular meeting of the Rochester Hills City Council will be Monday, September 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. Good night.